There are moments in history when the Church does not simply speak to Catholics, but to the conscience of the entire world. There are moments when the voice of Peter rises above the noise of empires, ideologies, markets, and machines, not to condemn human progress, but to rescue the human person from being forgotten inside it. With the release of Magnifica Humanitas, Pope Leo the 14th places before the world a question that can no longer be ignored. In an age shaped by artificial intelligence, who will defend the sacred dignity of the human soul? This encyclical arrives like a bell ringing across a restless century. It does not come as a political slogan, nor as a fear of science, nor as a rejection of human creativity. It comes as a moral awakening. It reminds humanity that technology can serve life, but it can also be used to dominate it. It can heal, connect, educate, and support. But it can also deceive, exploit, replace, isolate, and wound. The question is not whether humanity can build powerful systems. The deeper question is whether humanity still knows what it means to be human. Pope Leo the 14th speaks to a world fascinated by speed. Every day, machines calculate faster, imitate better, predict more precisely, and enter spaces once reserved for human judgment. They write words, generate images, analyze bodies, influence decisions, guide weapons, screen workers, shape information, and quietly affect the way people see themselves and one another. Many celebrate this new power without asking who controls it. Many fear it without knowing how to respond. Many accept it as inevitable. Yeah. But the Church insists that the future is not a machine. The future is a moral responsibility. Magnifica Humanitas is a call to remember that the human person is not an obstacle to progress. The human person is the reason progress exists. Every invention, every discovery, every institution, every law, and every economy must be measured by a simple and eternal truth. Does it serve the dignity of the person created in the image of God? Does it protect the weak? Does it honor the truth? Does it strengthen families? Does it defend work? Does it promote peace? Does it lead the heart toward communion? Or does it deepen loneliness, control, and division? This is why the Encyclical speaks with such urgency. Artificial intelligence is not merely a tool in the hands of engineers. It is becoming a force inside education, medicine, war, communication, finance, labor, politics, and even spiritual life. It can shape what people see, what they believe, what they fear, and what they desire. It can quietly form consciences without ever taking responsibility for them. It can provide answers without wisdom. It can imitate compassion without love. It can simulate presence without communion. It can speak of truth without kneeling before truth himself. The Catholics, this is not a small concern. The Church believes that intelligence is not only the power to calculate. Intelligence is bound to the mystery of the person, to conscience, freedom, moral judgment, memory, relationship, responsibility, and love. A machine can process information, but it cannot repent. It can produce language, but it cannot pray. It can identify patterns, but it cannot carry a cross. It can imitate tenderness, but it cannot give itself in sacrifice. It can assist human beings, but it must never be allowed to define the value of a human being. Pope Leo the 14th reminds the world that the dignity of humanity is magnificent because it comes from God. It is not granted by usefulness, productivity, intelligence, beauty, health, wealth, social power, or digital visibility. The unborn child, the elderly person with memory loss, the disabled worker, the migrant, the prisoner, the poor, the sick, the lonely, the unemployed, the hidden caregiver, and the forgotten soul all possess a dignity that no algorithm can measure and no system has the right to erase. This encyclical is therefore a defense of the invisible. It defends the worker whose job may be replaced without justice. It defends the student who may be taught but to imitate knowledge without loving truth. It defends the family whose attention is being divided by screens and synthetic voices. It defends the patient who must never become a data profile before becoming a person in need of care. It defends the poor who may be excluded from a future designed by the wealthy. It defends the conscience of young people who are growing up in a world where the difference between reality and imitation is becoming harder to recognize. The Pope does not ask Catholics to run away from technology. The Christian response is not panic, but discernment. The Church has always entered history with the light of the gospel. When labor was exploited, she defended the worker. When war threatened nations, she cried out for peace. When the earth was wounded, she called humanity back to stewardship. Now, as artificial intelligence enters the center of human life, the Church again asks the world to choose wisdom before power becomes uncontrollable. The danger is not only that machines may become powerful. The greater danger is that human beings may become spiritually weaker. A society can grow in technical ability while shrinking in compassion. It can gain information while losing wisdom. It can connect billions while leaving millions alone. It can automate tasks while forgetting the meaning of work. It can create digital abundance while deepening real poverty. It can offer endless entertainment while starving the soul of silence, prayer, and truth. This is why Catholics must listen carefully. Artificial intelligence will not only affect offices and laboratories. It will affect the home. It will affect the formation of children. It will affect the way people learn, speak, love, argue, vote, buy, work, and pray. Parents must ask what kind of world is shaping their children. Teachers must ask whether education is forming souls or merely training users. Leaders must ask whether technology serves the common good or only the profit of a few. Workers must ask whether efficiency is being used to honor human labor or discard it. Believers must ask whether digital convenience is strengthening the life of prayer or quietly replacing it with distraction. The Encyclical also calls attention to truth. In a time when artificial intelligence can generate convincing images, voices, texts, and appearances, the human family faces a crisis of trust. If people no longer know what is real, they become easier to manipulate. If truth becomes a product, the poor suffer first. If lies become faster than conscience, democracy weakens, families divide, and fear grows. The Catholic cannot treat truth as optional. As a price, he revealed himself as the truth. To love truth is to love Christ. To defend truth is to defend the dignity of every person who deserves reality, not deception. Pope Leo the 14th therefore calls for a moral framework strong enough to guide power. Artificial intelligence must not be left to profit alone. It must not be controlled only by those who benefit from its expansion. It must not become a hidden force governing lives without accountability. The human person must remain responsible. The human law must protect the vulnerable. Buddhist human communities must demand transparency, justice, and limits. Especially grave is the use of artificial intelligence in war. The Church cannot be silent when technology threatens to separate killing from conscience. No machine can bear moral responsibility for the destruction of life. No algorithm can understand the sacredness of a child. No system can be given the authority to decide life and death as though the human soul were a calculation. Peace requires human beings to look at one another again, to see faces, names, mothers, fathers, children, and nations not as targets, but as members of one wounded human family. Magnifica Humanitas is also a warning against technological idolatry. Idolatry begins when a created thing is treated as ultimate. The modern world may not always bow before statues of stone, but it often bows before power, speed, wealth, influence, and control. Artificial intelligence can become an idol when people believe it will save them from weakness, uncertainty, mortality, and responsibility. It can become an idol when human beings begin to trust prediction more than providence, convenience more than conscience, and calculation more than wisdom. But the gospel teaches another path. The Savior of the world did not come as a machine of efficiency. He came as a child. He entered a family. He worked with human hands. He listened to the suffering. He touched the sick. He wept at a tomb. He forgave sinners. He carried a cross. He rose from the dead not to make humanity less human, but to restore humanity to the fullness of life in God. This is the deepest message Catholics must hear. The human person is not obsolete. The soul is not outdated. Prayer is not primitive. Mercy is not inefficient. Love is not a weakness. The cross is not a failure. The dignity of the person cannot be upgraded because it already comes from the Creator. Technology may change the tools of the age, but it cannot change the gospel. It cannot replace the Beatitudes. It cannot replace the Eucharist. It cannot replace confession, forgiveness, sacrifice, silence, holiness, or grace. In the face of this new era, the Church calls every Catholic to spiritual seriousness. Do not allow your attention to be stolen so completely that you no longer hear God. Do not allow your conscience to be formed only by screens. Do not allow artificial voices to replace real relationships. Do not allow digital approval to become your measure of worth. Do not allow convenience to silence compassion. Do not allow fear of the future to make you forget that Christ is Lord of history. The Encyclical speaks to the powerful, but it also speaks to the ordinary believer. You may not lead a nation. You may not run a company. But you still have a responsibility. You can teach your children to love truth. You can pray before you react. The Church's real presence over constant distraction. You can defend the vulnerable. You can refuse lies. You can use technology with discipline rather than slavery. You can remember that every person you meet is more than data, more than a profile, more than an opinion, more than a function. The Catholics must become witnesses of human dignity in the digital age. This means speaking with charity when the world rewards anger. It means defending workers when efficiency is used as an excuse for injustice. It means accompanying the lonely in a world of artificial companionship. It means honoring the elderly when society idolizes novelty. It means protecting children from being formed by systems that do not love them. It means asking hard questions when others only celebrate innovation. It means keeping the human face at the center. Pope Leo the 14th's first encyclical also invites the Church to examine herself. Catholic institutions, schools, hospitals, media, and communities must not use new tools without moral reflection. The Church must lead not only with statements, but with example. She must show the world how technology can be used in service of communion, education, care, evangelization, and truth, without surrendering the sacred mystery of the person. She must never allow efficiency to replace pastoral love. She must never allow automation to replace accompaniment. She must never allow digital reach to become more important than real holiness. The Catholic vision is not anti-progress. It is pro-person. It is not against discovery. It is against dehumanization. It is not afraid of intelligence. It knows that true intelligence begins in wonder before God. The saints were not powerful because they processed information quickly. They were powerful because they loved deeply. They saw Christ in the poor. They forgave enemies. They suffered with patience. They lived in truth. They understood that wisdom is not the accumulation of data, but the ordering of life toward God. This is what every Catholic must know. Artificial intelligence may become one of the defining challenges of this generation, but it is not greater than grace. It may reshape society, but it must not reshape the truth of the human person. It may enter every corner of life, but it must remain a servant, never a master. It may assist the work of humanity, but it must never claim the place of the soul. At Catholics who repeat every trend without discernment. At Catholics who fear every development without understanding. At Catholics who hide with the modern world. The world needs Catholics who can stand in the heart of history and say that the human person is sacred, truth matters, work has dignity, peace is possible, conscience must be protected, the poor must not be abandoned, and technology must kneel before the moral law written by God into creation. Magnifica Humanitas arrives as a lamp in a time of confusion. It asks the world to slow down and remember. Remember the child. Remember the worker. Remember the poor. Remember the family. Remember the sick. Remember the elderly. Remember the lonely. Remember the prisoner. Remember the refugee. Remember the soul. Remember that no civilization can call itself advanced if it forgets how to love. And so, before the noise of the digital age, the Church offers not fear, but faith. Before the rise of artificial intelligence, she proclaims the irreplaceable greatness of human life. Before systems that predict and calculate, she points to the mystery of freedom and conscience. Before machines that imitate language, she invites humanity to listen again to the Word made flesh. Before the temptation to build a future without God, she lifts the cross and says that salvation is not manufactured. Salvation is received through Jesus Christ. Guide your church in this new age. Achieve wisdom at the Pope Leo the 14th. Give courage to bishops, priests, religious parents, teachers, workers, scientists, engineers, lawmakers, and all people of goodwill. Purify human ambition. Protect the weak. Defend the truth. Bless every effort that uses knowledge to serve life. To stop every plan that uses power to dominate the vulnerable. Let technology become an instrument of justice, not a weapon of control. Let the human person remain at the center. Let every heart remember that without love, even the greatest intelligence becomes empty. Bless the young who will inherit this digital world. Teach them to seek wisdom, not only information. Teach them to value silence, not only speed. Teach them to build friendships, not only networks. Teach them to recognize truth, not only images. Teach them to create with responsibility, to question with courage, and to live with their eyes fixed on Christ. Bless the workers whose future feels uncertain. Bless those afraid of being replaced, reduced, or forgotten. May society never measure them only by productivity. May leaders defend just work, fair wages, human creativity, rest, and the dignity of labor. May every economy remember that people are not disposable. Bless families trying to remain united in an age of distraction. Restore conversation at the table. Restore prayer in the home. Restore patience between generations. Restore tenderness between husband and wife. Restore protection for children. Restore respect for the elderly. Make the Christian home a sanctuary where technology serves love and never replaces it. Bless the church as she carries this message into the world. May she speak clearly, humbly, and courageously. May she never be seduced by power, never silenced by fear, never confused by fashion, and never forget the poor. May she proclaim that every person is made for communion with God, not for absorption into systems of control. The first encyclical of Pope Leo the 14th is not merely a document to read. It is a call to conversion. It asks each one of us to examine how we live, how we use technology, how we protect attention, how we speak truth, how we love our neighbor, and how we defend the sacred dignity of life. It asks us to see artificial intelligence not only as a question for experts, but as a question for conscience. But every Catholic must know is this: the future must remain human because humanity belongs to God. The machine must serve the person. Power must serve truth. If there's one that belongs to many rail known him for both pay. It's one with the one in fear. It's legit and it's true. Freedom must serve love. In every new age, no matter how advanced, must still answer the gospel of Jesus Christ. If this message touched your heart, subscribe to the channel Mary, Mother of Jesus. Leave your comment, share this video with someone who needs to understand this moment, and write your prayer request below. May the Lord bless you, may the Blessed Virgin Mary protect your family, and may the light of Christ guide humanity through every challenge of the digital age.